Hi, thank you for taking time to join us today for this webinar on enterprise documentation. My name is Marvin Nelson, and today's presenter is going to be Julie Rotz. She's a senior consultant with HotDocs, and Julie has a lot of experience. She's been working with the document automation technology for more than 18 years, and she's provided training and consulting, project management, template development for clients throughout the world, including Fortune 500 companies, banks, insurance providers, law firms, and government organizations. So she has a great deal of experience here, so we're excited to have her share her insight into document automation for enterprise class documentation today. So Julie, I'll turn the time over to you now. And at the end of the presentation, we'll have time to answer some of your questions. So feel free to type those into the GoToWebinar panel. And then at the end, we'll take a few minutes and we'll address any questions you may have. So thank you. And Julie, I'll turn the time over to you.
Thank you, Marvin. First and foremost, thank you everyone for joining this call. We know that it takes time out of your schedule and we appreciate you being here. One of the most important things about your business is being able to increase productivity and profitability, and HotDocs will be able to help you do that. We work with many companies of varying sizes. In particular, we work with many enterprise corporations. With all of those corporations, we have been able to save them time, money, in some way, shape, or form. As you can see, there's some statistics on the slide here. One of the statistics I want to talk about is how we have worked with a top bank. Now this particular bank has 600 staff members, and those staff, they create about 5,000 loan packages monthly, which is an immense amount of, if you just think about it, paper and resource time to put together this documentation. When they were doing this documentation by hand and with their other system, it was not as efficient as it could have been, and it was taking quite a bit of time that they could use otherwise. And so they came and talked to us, and they looked at HotDocs. After their implementation, they were saving about $2 million in labor cost, which was an incredible savings for them. Now you can see some of the other numbers on here from different organizations. Many of these organizations I've actually worked with and helped with the implementations on. And so those are things to think about when you look at moving to HotDocs. What is it that you need to achieve in your productivity? What is it that you're trying to do to boost your profits? It's likely HotDocs will be able to help you. So who uses HotDocs? Well, we have over a million users worldwide. Our client base is very large. Most importantly, a lot of people come to use HotDocs because of our experience. They want the market leader, they want the person that's going to be there, and we've been here in the market for 20 years. We have many awards. We have the Gartner in 2014 said that we were the cool vendor. We're really proud of that. We have the 60% market share in the legal sector, and a lot of individuals in the legal market will come to us, but what people don't realize is we are also in the corporate world, in the government sector. We are a large player in that area and well known in that area. And we tend to work well with other applications. And so we are able to integrate with systems that large enterprise companies already have. We are deployed globally. A large one of the case business examples that I'm going to speak to you about is actually a global company that has us, and we are being used in many areas within their practices. So we're going to talk about some business challenges later on, but we need to think about what are some of the business challenges you may be experiencing. So one of the things that you need to think about is productivity. Are you trying to save time? Are you trying to lessen your liability? Are you trying to standardize your documents? What is it that is opening up the risk? What is it that you're trying to increase your profits in? What is it that's going to make your resources do what they need to do better, more efficiently, and how can you find a product to help you do that? HotDocs can come in and do all of these things, as well as make you more efficient and your resources more efficient by saving you time and money in what we do. If you haven't seen HotDocs already, one of the things that we're going to do on this is webinar is a demonstration. So the idea that with HotDocs is, what is it that I do, or what is it that I put into HotDocs? One of the things that people think about is they say, oh, okay, I'm gonna get HotDocs and I'm going to get it in my legal department. Most of the people on the call with us today, you guys have a legal department, you're large companies. You are going to use HotDocs in any area where you have documents. You might be thinking of your human resources department. You might be thinking of your legal department. Perhaps you're only thinking of an area where you have some statements of work. But if you look at these lists where we have actually developed documents for companies, it's vast. Any area where you're creating documents within your company is the right place for HotDocs. And it's something, if you're a current HotDocs user, if you're not using HotDocs in that area, that's a place where you can increase your productivity and boost your profits by pushing HotDocs into that particular organization, because now they're not trying to do things manually and they're becoming more efficient. They have more time to focus on other things. You're reducing your risk and your liability. You have more consistency across your company as well. All the documents that you're producing, all the systems that are working with HotDocs, you're consistent, and it's making your business more streamlined. A little overview on how HotDocs works. Now, this is not the demonstration. We're going to get to that in a moment, but this is more of a high-level overview before we get into some of that. From the back end, you will have what is called a content author. That individual will take either documents or they will take PDF files. And they're going to look at your documents and PDF files and decide what needs to be developed in those. Basically, what changes. Then, and those things that changes, by the way, that might not just be Bob Smith's name, or this is what the term is for the loan, or this is what the price is for whatever this particular widget. This may be entire paragraphs or pages. Perhaps it's a signature block. Perhaps it's the actual header and footer that are coming in. If you're a large government agency and you're on the line and you do litigation, maybe it's the entire caption and you're capturing that information. Those things that are consistent across documents, and this is what this green area is indicating, those large chunks of consistent language, HotDocs can control from document to document and bring them in and out with conditioning so that the user's not having to copy and paste, and you don't have Bob with his special language and Sally with her special language, and things are inconsistent. So once you get everything developed, then you have what are called your end users. And there are far more end users than there are content authors. Those are the people who are going to fill your forms out. And you can fill your forms out from different devices. You can fill them out on a computer, on a mobile device. They're going to go through what's called an interview. They're going to answer some questions. There is one thing I will say. You may be gathering that information from an enterprise data source. That could be a database or something else. And then HotDocs is going to pull that data into what was the document template the content author made and merge it all together into a document or documents. Today I'm going to show you multiple documents being produced by one interview process within the HotDocs system. And if you think of that, we call those packages of documents. A lot of times in your companies where you're at right now, you're not always just generating one employment agreement, or you're not generating one statement of work. You're trying to create multiple documents for a particular process together. And so HotDocs has the power to do that. That in and of itself, being able to create multiple documents together, will boost your productivity, will help with your profits, because people will be able to save their time and money without having to create separate files and bouncing between different versions of Word documents and retyping in their data. The other thing that's great about HotDocs is it saves all of the answers someone types in, one of your end users. They can reuse them. Even if they're not reusing them in a document they're filling out now, they can reuse them later. So let's talk about some of these clients. I have 3 case studies that I want to chat with you about before I give you a demonstration of HotDocs. The first client I want to talk to you about is a telecom provider. Now, they are basically a group or a company that provides the infrastructure, wireless infrastructure for other companies, other telecom companies to borrow, rent. And their particular problem was that their management division, their licensing department, if you will, they needed to improve their creation process, their contract creation process. And they were creating all their documents in Microsoft Word. They were text documents, basically, and they were doing this manually. Nothing was automated. They didn't have Word macros. They weren't pulling the data from any other enterprise data source, and they didn't have any workflows that they were working with. It was very painful to create these contracts and time-consuming. And for them, it would take hours to create a single contract. I know some of you on the line can feel this pain. You know what this was like. You know how it is for your employees to go through this, because you have very long contracts. They're legal intense. They have to be perfect. And so you have to spend a lot of time reviewing them. They have to be just right. And one of the things that was difficult for them is they were having to spend a lot of time just concentrating on getting one contract out. When they got a lot of contracts, it was overwhelming. And so they had a slow turnaround. Now, the solution for them was HotDocs. And they were able to convert over 100 different contracts that they had in-house and turn them into what we call fully automated templates, if you remember from the slide before this. What that did for them, besides that, let me step back a minute, is they integrated it with a workflow, a BPM workflow, and a database. Now, they used a client database that they had in-house that they weren't able to leverage before. And so they also were able to deploy these templates that they had created across this organization that they have, so that they have consistency in their agreements and their process. So what are their results? You know, what did they gain from doing this? Their templates are easier to maintain. They have basically more templates that they can use in-house. They have 1,200 agreements they produce monthly now. Some of them are 40 pages long. And they have about $18,000 in labor costs saved. 90% of their property management division is generated through HotDocs, which is incredible if you think about it. When I work with my clients, I tend to say, you know, we're going to take about the 80% of what you do and bring it into the system, because that's going to save you the most amount of money. There's always going to be a little bit that you need to do by hand in some way because it's in that we don't do it very often. But the fact that they could get that 90% in consistency is incredible. And if you look at the cost savings, it's amazing for what they've done. Our second case study is with a client that I've worked quite closely with for many, many years. We're talking about over probably 10 years with this particular client. I know them quite well. They have almost as many users as we do. And they have basically, they came from similar situation to the case study before. They were doing a manual process. They do a lot of statements of work, NDAs, licensing agreements, and in the same situation as what was going on before, they're lengthy, and not just lengthy. These particular documents are intense because of the business practice of this particular company. They have to cover all states. They have different pricing, not just pricing across the states, but tiers of pricing. So the pricing is quite complex, and it's based on the products they're selling. So they sell a myriad of different products. They have pricing tiers for each product, and it has to be correct. And one of the things that they were having in their problem is not just that they had these different documents, is they had to make sure that everyone across the organization who was selling these products had the right information all of the time, and the pricing would change constantly. And so, and some of the legalese within the documents would change, and that was hard to keep consistent and correct. So one of the things that they decided is they needed to go to a system that would help control this, and they ended up going to a web-based version of HotDocs. That's what I'm going to show you today, is a web-based version of HotDocs. This eliminated their end-user mistakes, dropped their liability down quite a bit, and they also were able to finally integrate with their CRM system. One of the things we were able to do for them as well as around the time that they went to their web-based version of HotDocs is they were able to bring on a system called DocuSign, and we integrated with DocuSign, and so now they have an entire workflow process. So when we think about enterprise solutions for our clients, it's generally not just HotDocs. We're looking at an overall larger process solution, and they were able to then have a system where the data is pulled into HotDocs. HotDocs generates their pristine, perfect documents. Their users are not having to do manual work, no data reentry, and then it's pushed into basically having the signing done for them, and then off it goes into their document management system. So it saved quite a bit of time and money for them. In the regards of their results, they have about 1,200 work hours that they saved, and they create 600 contracts a month. One of the last case studies that I'm going to talk about before I get to the demonstration, because I want to be mindful of your time, is with one of our global clients. And this is a very well-known company. They produce utilities, they produce their manufacturing company. Everyone has at least something of theirs in their home. And they needed to improve accuracies. Basically, they also were having a little bit of the same problem as these other companies. They needed to eliminate some of the risk that they have. They have HotDocs in multiple departments, though we're going to talk about just one or two in our case study today, specifically some of their patent documents. And they have, just like we were talking about before, a lot of contracts, letters, requests, etc. Now, they create hundreds and hundreds of these patent documents. And so what they decided to do is pull HotDocs into this department. This is a company that already knew HotDocs, and they were using it in other divisions, and they thought this would be a great use of HotDocs, is if we use this in our patent department. They gave us a call, we went in and helped them here, and they were able to, like our other clients I gave you case studies for, now integrate HotDocs with another system they already have. So they integrated it with their Oracle database, with a docketing system that they have. You can't necessarily do that when you're just working with Word. And they were able to expand again into other departments once they saw how this was working. And so with results to this particular department and what we've seen with this company in chatting with them, they have decreased time in their patent documentation. And if you're on the line and you do patent documentation, you know how long it takes to do that in the process you have to go through. And the cost saving for them is, as you can see, is incredible. What I want to do before we go to some of your questions, which are important, is talk a little bit, do a quick demonstration of HotDocs, and I will keep it quick. So give me one moment here, and I'm going to come over into what we call HotDocs Template Portal. I'm already signed in. HotDocs Template Portal is the main system. Sorry, signed in as someone else. Is the main system that we will use, or a webinar-based version of HotDocs is what you're going to use for enterprise solutions, someone of your size. You can see right here I have different folders. Now, one thing I'm going to note, even though you see different folders here, especially because you see a human resource folder, the nice thing about a web-based version of HotDocs is you have user access rights. If I don't want my users, remember those are the people filling out the form, because that's what I'm going to do right now. If I don't want my users to see human resource, I can hide that from them. I'm just displaying different folders of documents so you guys get a broader view of the types of things that you can do in this product. I'm not going to go into one of the folders because based on time, I want to move through this demonstration a little bit quickly. And I know you're going to be able to go back. We're recording this, so you'll be able to go back and look at this again. But one of the things I want to do is go into what's called the new hire package. Normally this would be under human resources. This new hire package is actually multiple documents I'm going to fill out. I'm not going to use an answer file. You can see there's not any here. The answer file, if you remember from my my conversation with you earlier on, is where HotDocs you would fill in data. It might come in from your enterprise data source, but you would fill in data and HotDocs would retain that information so you could reuse it. I'm going to go ahead and click continue here. This is what I call an interview. This is what we all call an interview. Basically, HotDocs is going to interview the end user for some information. Now, I have a button, use preset answers. I'm going to talk about this in a moment. I'm not linked to an enterprise data source, and I did this on purpose because I wanted you guys to understand what I'm talking about when I keep talking about enterprise data source and the efficiencies you gain if you link to one. If you don't link to an enterprise data source, then what happens is your employee comes in and you're still going to get efficiencies. You're going to get immense efficiencies by not linking to a data source if you don't have one, just by moving into HotDocs. Your user would come in and they would start filling in some information. So let's say the starting position for this employee is a sales rep. They would come in and answer all of the questions in any of these screens. These are all different screens down the side here, one by one. A lot easier than looking through a document or doing a find and replace in Word. Now, imagine if this was linked to a database, which most enterprise companies have somewhere this data in a database. What now happens, I just clicked the Use Preset Answers button, is all that data is just merged into HotDocs. The user doesn't have to fill it in. Or maybe there's a bit of a hybrid. The user, some of the data comes in and now the user goes in to fill in the information that hasn't been filled in. That's what comes with the power of a big workflow process, and HotDocs is great in those workflow processes. So with the information filled in, the user would click Finish. And I will point out, one of the things that is, and you can see here, some of the information didn't get filled in. We'll say Bob's a male. I'm just going to look over my information before I go through. I can see that, yep, oh, the sales rep's going to cold call on widgets. Double check everything here. Looks good. Looks good. All this is filled in. Yep, all filled in. So I've double-checked my information. I'm going to click Finish here. And a lot of this information that you see here will add or remove different language in my documents. There's about 4 of them, 3 Word files and 1 PDF file for this new hire package. So this package is for onboarding a new employee. And you can see here, the nice thing about our web-based versions of HotDocs is the user could download each one of these documents individually. So from one interview, from one set of answers, from one set of questions, I now have 4 documents generated. And I can download them as 4 separate documents, or I could just download the zip file, and I could then open each individual document. And I'm just going to open one of them for the purposes of our demonstration and go back. So you can see here all the information is filled in. And on all the Word documents it will be filled in. And the user's not doing any copying and pasting. And that took me, yes, I had a preset answer, but even if that took me, even with the preset answer, about 30 seconds maybe. Even if I was typing it in, probably about 2 to 3 minutes to generate 4 documents. Now, if we imagine that across your organization with more documents to generate, you're going to be able to decrease your risk. You'll have more consistency. You're going to be able to save time and money. And those resources right now that are your horsepower in your company, that are doing all of that labor, investing that time into that manual process, will be able to use that time more effectively for other business needs, and you'll be able to propel your business forward. One of the things that I haven't touched on, but I will speak just to for a moment, is you're also going to be able to standardize not just your documents, but some of your business processes. You've heard me talk about it with workflow and other things, but you will be able to do that. I'm going to turn the time back over to Marvin for some questions. Hopefully you have some really good questions for me. I love to hear your questions. Marvin, what do we have in the queue that's come up?
All right, thank you, Julie. I appreciate you sharing that webinar with us. Let's go through the questions here. So again, you can type those into the questions panel in the GoToWebinar screen, and then I can get to those. So let me pull a couple of these out. Okay, so one of the questions says, can you provide suggestions on best practice to manage consistency across the business and templates if there are multiple content authors?
Oh, excellent question. Yes. So one of the things that I would do is, one, I would make sure that all of your content, all of your template authors are trained to the same level to begin with. We come into companies a lot and they have varying levels of training, and that does create some problems when you are trying to create a consistent process. Two, I would make sure that all of your content authors, and I should pull back for a moment, your content authors in a large, in an enterprise company, they may not all be within the same department. So if your content authors are developing documents from within the same department, make sure that they are developing their documents from within the same folder, from within the same area, basically, that they have consistent standards in place that they've decided on for naming conventions, for what they're going to do with regards to what they're going to include and exclude as far as signature blocks, etc., for how they want to go about their development. Another thing that will be important, and one of the things, I'm a professional project manager as well, so I will always say it's important for your developers to, your content authors basically, to have some design before they start. You guys wouldn't want to buy a house that had no blueprints, that didn't have a good architect, that didn't have a bonded contractor. And so the same thing goes for your content developers in-house, is that you want them to have a very good design before they start developing your documents. It'll save you guys some time and money at the end. It'll also keep everyone consistent with what the big picture is and where they're going. I can talk to some more of that offline. I'm trying to keep it a little bit brief. If you have some more questions on that, I'll get in contact with Marvin and I'll provide some more information. Marvin, do we have another question?
Yeah, let me pull up another question here. Okay. Okay, so this one says, is it possible to set up a secure online client portal where clients can access forms and submit information? So I guess instead of the company, the employees submitting information, but the client would be able to access questionnaires and fill in information.
Excellent question. If Marvin has interpreted your question correctly, then yes, you can. There are a couple of ways of handling this. One way many of our clients are doing this in this particular situation is they're using HotDocs Document Services. It is a cloud-based version of HotDocs. It is secure, and you can give specific user access rights, basically a login for your clients. And one of the ways that a client I'm working with is doing this is they actually have template portal as well. This particular client I'm working with, they are using HotDocs Document Services to allow their clients to fill in some of the answers to information, and then my client, per se HotDocs' client, because I am HotDocs, is then gathering those answers, downloading the answers, and filling out the documents off of their template portal. You can use document services across the board, but if you're a large enterprise client and you want to do more integrations with other systems, it's going to be better to do it behind your own firewall. So document services is a solution for that. We've also done some licensing for some other things, but it is the fastest, quickest way to do that, and very user-friendly for your clients. So there's a lot of clients in there, so I'm trying to clarify that.
Okay, good. Okay, so you did talk a little bit about some of the systems you integrated with. So like what additional systems and technologies does HotDocs integrate with?
Okay. There are a lot of systems that HotDocs integrates with. As you saw on the webinar, we mentioned Oracle. We have SQL databases that we integrate with. Often we're integrating with SQL. You saw DocuSign was mentioned there. CRMs, there's quite a few CRMs that we're integrating with for our clients. On the legal side, I'm actually speaking with a client right now who is working with Time Matters. We tend to, if you are a large legal company and you happen to be on this presentation, we integrate with a lot of those case management systems. Loan origination systems, we get a lot. If you're a bank and you happen to be on the line, whether it's homegrown or it's an out-of-the-box system, we integrate with. And then there tends to be, we've done some insurance integrations as well. In insurance, you have your own systems that you've purchased, and so we've done integrations with those systems. Normally on the back end of all these systems, no matter what they are, is some database. And a lot of these databases are, they come in just a handful of formats most of the time. And that's what we're integrating with. We're not really integrating with the front end of these systems, we're integrating with the back end. And very few times, I can't even think of a time where we've gone in and said, we can't integrate with your system. HotDocs is quite flexible that way. The whole goal of our thought process here at HotDocs is we want you to use our product. We want it to play nice with your other systems. And so we do specialize. We have a team that specializes in helping that process happen.
Okay, great. So the last question, and I can help answer this one. This is, how do we find out more about your licensing model? So I can answer that one. So to sum things up, that was our last question. So we'd be happy to answer any questions you have, talk about pricing, talk about your specific environment and some of the challenges you face. And so the best way to get some answers would be to speak with a representative from our company, member of one of our consultants or one of our sales team members, and we can provide you with some good insight and speak to you about your challenges and try to figure out which products and services we offer would be the best fit. Because we do offer a variety of different products and services, and not everything is the right fit for every organization, and so we kind of do a mix and match to do what's best for you. And then that way we can talk about licensing, talk about pricing, and timelines and so forth, and help answer your questions. So yeah, we'd love to speak with any of you if you have additional questions or if you want to test out the software. And also keep in mind that today's webinar was very high level. The demo itself was actually fairly brief. We would be more than happy to do a more personalized demonstration showing some documents that you may be working with on your end, and so you can get a much better in-depth feel of how the software works and the power that it can have in your type of an organization. So yeah, we'd be happy to speak to you about that. So go ahead and contact us. We have our contact information up on the screen there, and we can address any additional questions you may have. So thank you again for taking time today, and thank you, Julie. Thank you very much for taking your time to share your experience with everyone, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you.